What's up? It's your boy KC. How y'all doing? Today is March 30th, 2016, and I'm coming at you live with episode 20 of my podcast show. We got a lot to talk about today, but first, you know what grinds my gears?
What?
People who wear open-toe shoes knowing damn well their feet are busted up. If your feet look like eagle's claws, you need to keep socks on or keep sneakers on. It doesn't matter how good the dress looks, ladies. If your feet are freaking dusty and look like you've been trying to break concrete blocks with your heels, do not wear open-toe shoes because we notice these kinds of things, and that's what grinds my gears. Before I get into Raw's results, I want to talk about the Hall of Fame class this year. To me, I may not be the only one that feels this way, but I feel that this class is kind of weak. There are some people that are going in that I feel absolutely deserves it. But then there are other people that I scratch my head at. Sting definitely deserves it. Minus his WWE run, which I will not speak of, Sting has done it all. He's done it all. This guy deserves the Hall of Fame. The Freebirds, no matter how I feel about Michael P.S. Hayes being a racist bastard, they deserve to go in because of their contributions to wrestling. Stan Hansen absolutely deserves it because that guy was an ass-kicking machine, dude. Stan Hansen was a brawler. He was awesome. And then there's Jacqueline. No disrespect to Miss Jackie. She's a tough one and she was gorgeous and she did some things. But I don't really feel she deserves to go in because what has she done? Yeah, she was the women's champion twice. But that's it. Did she generate any money? Did she really make an impact in that women's division the way that Wendy Richter did? The way that Sable did, the way that Chyna did? No. So it's I really don't feel she should be in there. I could think of a couple of other females that should have gotten in there before her, even though she never wrestled in the U.S. The greatest female professional wrestler of all time, in my opinion, my favorite of all time, Monami Toyota. She deserves to go in. Even though she never wrestled for WWE or any other American company, this woman is amazing. And she's still wrestling now. And the fact that she's not even in the Hall of Fame, I scratch my head at that. Then we got Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg has made a couple of appearances here or there. He's been great. I never complain about his appearances and stuff. He's good. But what bothers me is that he got in before Cyndi Lauper, and he got in before Regis. If anybody deserves to be in the WWE Celebrity Hall of Fame, it is Regis Philbin. Because this guy, since day one, was a wrestling fan. He's made many wrestling appearances. And he's had so many big names on his show with that bitch Kathy Lee. He had the big names like Hogan, Warrior, Macho Man, Undertaker, Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, Shawn Michaels, Diesel, the Bushwhackers, Yokozuna. The list goes on. This guy was always invested in wrestling. And the fact that he's not in there, it really boggles the mind. You have Cyndi Lauper, the one who was a part of that whole rock and wrestling era. And this is where I gotta take the time to roll people down history lane in wrestling, because there are a lot of people out there who say Mr. T doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame and Cyndi Lauper doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame and don't know what the hell they're talking about. So let me try to say this so that people understand what I'm saying. If it was not for Cyndi Lauper and Mr. T bringing the mainstream audience into the first two WrestleManias, those first two WrestleManias, I don't think WrestleMania would have made it past WrestleMania 2 if it wasn't for those two. Because yes, we had the wrestling fans back then, but that was nowhere near the amount that they needed to get their show over. Mr. T was the one being on the talk shows with Hulk Hogan, talking about being in the main event. Yes, Hogan was on his way to being a mega star, but without Mr. T, I don't think Hogan gets that type of publicity and the WWE gets the type of publicity that they did if it was not for those two. Because people in the mainstream audience did not know nothing about wrestling. They didn't care about wrestling. Those people who listened to Cyndi Lauper, who was one of the biggest music stars in the world back then, they're like, she's getting involved in wrestling. Let me see what this is about. That's their thought process. They don't give a fuck about wrestling. Are you guys understanding me? I mean, seriously, do your homework before you start throwing shit out there. Mr. T deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm glad they put him in because they owe the man. Cyndi Lauper needs to get in because she helped out Wendy Richter. She helped get that whole rock and wrestling thing going. So there's my history lesson for you folks in wrestling. Those are my reasons why those two absolutely deserve it. Now that my rant is over, let's move on to the Raw results. The best part of the show was at the beginning of the show. And you know that's bad when you have one great segment that is better than everything else on the show, and it's at the beginning, which means this show sucked. I mean, there's no other way for me to put it. You have Shane McMahon and The Undertaker insulting the hell out of each other. They proceed to brawl with each other. Shane McMahon hits The Undertaker in the head with a monitor, and Shane McMahon, being the crazy sadistic bastard that he's always been, decides to get up on the top rope and drops an elbow on The Undertaker through the announce table. This was awesome. They're doing their best to get Shane McMahon over as a actual opponent, as an actual threat to The Undertaker, even though Vince McMahon is senile and says that Shane McMahon is the most formidable opponent The Undertaker has ever had. And I really wish that Vince McMahon would stop doing drugs. That's all I have to say on that. You know, in watching this show, you realize just how clueless WWE's writers actually are, because their fingerprints are all over this show, and it's proven that they don't pay attention to NXT or anything else that goes on in WWE. Next, we have Chris Jericho versus Zack Ryder, in which Jericho loses by a distraction roll-up. You know, the same finish that they tried with Jericho last week, and Chris Jericho didn't fall for it and he actually won the match? This time he actually lost by a distraction roll-up. He fell for it. They made Chris Jericho look like the dumbest idiot on this planet. As long as he's been wrestling, he fell for it. Wow. Even Steven's booking, because they made AJ Styles look like a dumbass too when he got rolled up. These guys really should know better. Up next, we have a very disappointing match between Charlotte and Becky Lynch. This match was terrible. I was so disappointed at this. I feel that WWE is using these girls wrong. I understand that Charlotte is a heel, but there's no reason for her to be a chicken shit heel. This match was very disappointing. The ending was Charlotte running away from Becky and Becky being tripped up by Ric Flair. And that's how she lost the match, the natural selection, and that's it. You know, I have respect for Ric Flair, but I'm sick of seeing Ric Flair interfere in these matches. Charlotte doesn't need that kind of attention. There's no reason why you can't have a babyface and a heel, battle it out, have great matches, one wins and one loses. You know, this is really getting on my nerves here. Up next, we have a very boring match with Kane and the Big Show versus Bo Dallas and Mr. Imperfect, Curtis Axel. It went to a no contest because everybody started brawling. Who gives a crap? I mean, seriously. Triple H comes out to bore me once again. He talks about the importance of the title, which I feel is ass backwards. It should have been Reigns out there talking about the importance of the title. They are doing this thing backwards. They're making Triple H look more and more favorable. They're making him look more and more like a babyface, while Reigns is the one that's getting booed every damn night. You know, if WWE was smart, which I doubt they are, they could use this as an angle to turn Reigns heel. Like, you could have had Reigns come out and say how important it is to him to be the champion and that he would do anything to be the champion once again. Anything. And then you go into WrestleMania, you have their match, you can have Reigns go heel there. You know, it would all fit perfectly because Reigns as a babyface is a utter disaster. The fans just do not like this guy. You guys need to do something. You don't want him to end up like John Cena. He's already halfway there. You need to do something to rehab this guy. Kofi Kingston defeated Alberto Del Rio by roll-up. I don't have much to say about this match, but I can say this. I am glad that Kofi Kingston is getting a lot of TV time, because there was a time in his career, specifically after his feud with Randy Orton, where they were doing absolutely nothing with him. They were jobbing him out to everybody, and Kofi definitely deserves more than that because he's a great wrestler. I'm glad to see that they're using him right. Up next, Kalisto defeated Connor of the Ascension. I really like Kalisto. This guy is amazing. He kind of reminds me of a young WCW version of Rey Mysterio. Connor, on the other hand, the Ascension has been a complete bust since coming out from NXT. They were dead in the water as soon as they put the face paint on him and tried to pass him off as the greatest tag team of all time. And this is one of the things that irritates me about people these days, people in this generation specifically. You cannot compare these new guys to guys that were already great, because the Ascension will never, ever, listen to me, they will never, ever be as great as the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors. They will never, ever be as great as Demolition. Those teams are on the highest stratosphere as far as it comes to tag teams. These guys are 6 feet under the ground. That's how much better that those teams were. They need to take these guys off TV and give them something different to do, because this is not working and it's pissing old school fans like me completely off. Because it comes off as a complete mockery when they come out and they mock these teams. It's bullshit. They need to do something new with these guys. Up next, we had the Paul Heyman promo, and Dean Ambrose was a part of it too. He came out there. Paul Heyman is a great salesman, man. This guy can make any match seem important. Why he's not a commentator, I don't know. Dean Ambrose comes out with a wheelbarrow full of stuff. He has the barbed wire baseball bat that was given to him by Mick Foley, and he has a chainsaw given to him by Terry Funk. Two of the most sadistic bastards on the face of this planet when it comes to hardcore matches. This is getting interesting. WWE needs to let these guys go out there and just brawl. Let them brawl all over the arena, in the backstage area, even outside. I don't know if they know how to have hardcore matches anymore, because these guys just brawl around the ring. Somebody gets hit in the back with a chair and that's it. Let these guys go out there and fight. That's what this whole thing is supposed to be about. This is where this feud is supposed to end, in a battle. If they do that, then this match will be something special to see. But if they have a bunch of restrictions on this match because Vince McMahon is against blood and all that stuff like that, there doesn't have to be blood. Blood just adds to the match. But just let them go out there and put on a show for the fans, because I know Brock can do it. Dean can do it if you give him the chance to do it. And they could steal the show. You never know. Sometimes you gotta take the cuffs off these guys and let them go out there and do what they do best, and that's entertain the fans. Emma made her return back to the main roster, which I'm glad to see her, because it's been a while since I've seen her in any kind of match up there. She had a match against Paige in which she defeated Paige when Lana came down and kicked Paige in the stomach and cost her the match, in which Eva Marie comes down to make the babyface save. Stop. You remember at the beginning of my show when I said that WWE doesn't pay attention to anything outside the Raw bubble? This is one of those moments I was talking about. If Vince McMahon had sat his happy ass down and watched NXT, he would know that Eva Marie is the most hated woman on the entire roster and that whole entire company. And I read online that they were disappointed by her reaction because the fans booed the shit out of her. Of course they're gonna boo the shit out of her. She's a heel. On NXT, she is a bona fide bitch. She taunts people. They hate her wrestling. They hate her promos. The only thing that they like about her is that the woman is gorgeous as hell. I never said she was ugly. The woman is fine as hell. I mean, seriously. I can see why the girls at NXT hate her ass. But still, Vince McMahon needs to pay attention to NXT so that stuff like this won't happen again. They had a 6-man tag team match with all the participants that will be in the Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania. You had Dolph Ziggler teaming up with Sami Zayn, Sin Cara versus Kevin Owens, Stardust, and The Miz, in which Sami Zayn gets the win for his team by rolling up The Miz after The Miz attempted the skull-crushing finale. This match was okay. It held my attention, which is good. And last but not least, we have Triple H coming out to bore me once again. Once was not good enough, so let's go out there. Why? Because WWE hates my guts. That's why Triple H came out again, and he comes out there and he cuts another promo in which I go to reach for the tissue box and proceed to cry like a little girl because that's how much Triple H bores me. Reigns comes out and his reaction rivals Eva Marie's because he got the shit booed out of him. They brawl with each other. All of a sudden, all of these guys come out from all the matches at WrestleMania and they brawl. Triple H escapes with his title. Reigns stands tall. This was awful. I don't know why they thought this would be a good idea. This is one of the worst segments that I've ever seen for a build-up to a WrestleMania show. Because through the night, like I said, we're talking about WWE's writing here. Triple H comes out and he's portrayed as the babyface when he's really the heel. You see the confusion here? They want him to be booed, but he comes out and talks about the importance of being a champion. He beats the crap out of the babyface and gets cheered because they hate Reigns. But then at the end of the night, Triple H runs like a little bitch to get away from Reigns. And it's all confusing. Who's the babyface and who's the heel here? You know, I'm a wrestling fan. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I'm pretty sure that any common fan could look at this and say, what the hell am I looking at? Who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? This was awful, man. All of a sudden, these guys come out. What were the reasons for the mid-carders to come out and start brawling with each other? To try to put over the Andre Battle Royal? We know what it is, people. And that was your raw results. As far as TNA goes, these guys just keep getting blows after blows after blows. Ken Anderson was fired from the roster from being under the influence. I don't know if he was drugged up or drunk or both, but he's no longer there anymore. And he went on to another wrestling show specifically to say, I'm not a part of TNA, fuck TNA. Okay, you know, that's a way to burn another bridge, just like he did with every other wrestling company he's ever been in. Good deal, Ken Anderson. Now they lost Bobby Roode and Eric Young. Bobby Roode, one of the best wrestlers they had on that entire roster, and one of the most entertaining heels that they've ever had, is no longer there. And Eric Young, the same guy who defended TNA no matter how wrong this company is, no matter how much stupid, ridiculous shit that Dixie Carter comes up with in that delusional mind of hers, Eric Young was always there to defend the company. And now even he's gone. And it's like, what happens from here? You know, the rumor has it that they were disappointed because they were not getting paid the way that they should have been getting paid. Like TNA was behind on payments. Surprise there. You know, we've been hearing about that for a couple of years now. And it's not hard to imagine that people would get tired of that, because at my job, if I'm 3 weeks behind in payments, I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. There's no way in hell I would continue to work for a place like that. And the fact that these guys stuck around after all of that, these guys are some of the most loyal dudes I've ever seen in my entire life, because I sure as hell wouldn't do it. You think those guys back in the day, there's no way in hell Hogan would ever stick around. Hogan would have quit WWF a long time ago if Vince McMahon was like, Hogan, we can't pay you. Well, I quit, brother. You know, that's exactly what would happen. You know, now what happens to these two guys? I can see WWE picking up Bobby Roode. They would be dumb not to offer him something. Get him on NXT, get him up on the main roster, because they need more heels. They need a guy like Bobby Roode. I don't give a damn about his age. Age does not matter. The guy can still go. He still has great matches. And AJ Styles, who is one of the best wrestlers in this world. You know, I can throw that out there because this guy has been in every wrestling promotion, every big wrestling promotion that we know, and he has tore it up in every single one of those. Age has nothing to do with it. If you can wrestle your ass off, I don't care if you're 65 years old. If you're 60 and you can wrestle like AJ, these guys would be fools not to pick you up. So they need a guy like Bobby Roode on that roster. You know, come in there and call him, just don't be stupid enough to be like, oh, he's Ravishing Rick Rude 2.0. We don't need him gyrating. Just let him come in and do what he does best. Eric Young, I don't know. I could see them offering him a contract probably to be, but he's been so much of a comedy figure for most of his career. I don't know if WWE will want to pick him up. I mean, Eric Young is a good wrestler, but he was just never portrayed as a main event guy until the end of his run in TNA. And they basically did that because they were trying to copy the whole Daniel Bryan angle. You know, let's be honest here. They copy each other a lot. But I guess if you want to get Eric Young out there, you want to bring him in as a serious wrestler, not a joke character, I guess I could see them putting him on the main roster or the NXT roster. Time for the video game portion where we talk about video games for all the gamers out there. There's been a rumor concerning Nintendo. They've been saying that Nintendo is supposed to be ceasing production of all their Wii U's in order to bring out the NX. Nintendo put that rumor to rest by saying that there is absolutely no way that they were intending to stop the production of the Wii U, because to me it would be suicide, because they would have no system out there in this generation to compete with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Now, they're not on that level, but at least they have something out there. It would be complete suicide for them to do something stupid like that. So no, they're not ceasing production of the Wii U at the end of this year. There's been a lot of talk about this PlayStation 4.5. I don't know much about it. I've been trying to find articles and reading up on it. But what I do know is that the system is going to have a more powerful CPU, a more powerful processor. It's going to allow people to play their games at 4K resolution, which is pretty cool. But let's be real, this system is only being built so that they can promote the PlayStation VR. You know, the visor that everybody's going to be able to wear so that they can do the virtual reality bullshit that Nintendo failed on years ago. So don't be surprised that if the next PlayStation 4 that comes out is going to be bundled with the PlayStation VR, just like they did with the camera and the Xbox One with their camera and all that stuff. That's pretty much all it is. If it is going to be a more powerful processor, it's probably going to cost more than the original PlayStation 4. So, you know, for me, you know, it's already expensive enough to buy a PlayStation 4 now. So I'm not going to trip over myself to get this new system if they do make a new one. That's all I pretty much know on this one. Is it worth it? This game called Ragnarok Odyssey Ace. It's a Monster Hunter-esque type video game where you get to create your own character. You have different types of classes that you could be in. Whether it's a swordsman, you can have knives, you can have bows, you know, the whole 9 yards. And you go out there and you just hunt monsters in order to create armor and get different types of weapons and to complete missions. This game is a fun game, but sometimes it can be a bit confusing because I don't know what this game is trying to be. I don't know if it's trying to be humorous, if it's trying to be serious, or if it's trying to be cute. Because in the earlier missions, you have these monsters that you fight that look like gumdrops or marshmallow peeps, if you will, which implies that it's trying to be a cute game. You know, something that kids and girls will like. Then you have missions where you have these gigantic monsters that tear you to shreds, implying that it's a serious game. And then you have missions that make absolutely no sense and which is trying to be humorous. So that's the confusing thing to me. But other than that, it is a great game. If you are not a fan of grinding, do not buy this game because you have to grind. They make you work for your armor. They make you work for your weapons. You know, I fought the same guy, no lie. I remember I heard about the Muramasa being in this game, the legendary sword, the Muramasa. I fought the same monster 25 times before I could get a Muramasa. You have to have some serious patience to play this game. If you don't have patience, do not pick this game up. If you enjoy this type of style, and you like to go out there and build up your character to be the strongest fighter in that gaming universe, then by all means pick it up. It is a good game. The video game of the week is probably the only basketball game I'll ever enjoy playing, period. NBA Jam. Everybody has to remember that game. That game was so much fun to play. They took something as boring as basketball and they implemented so many different things in it and made it a must-play video game. All the crazy dunks and all the crazy shit that goes on in that game just makes this game so much fun. And I used to be the one that will always do that one infamous dunk, that one dunk that everybody knows, where you go up and you flip all the way up in the air and you come down and you jam down on that basket. That jump was crazy, man. And when you get around the fourth quarter and you try to do that one powerful dunk that will shatter the backboard. And if your player makes a lot of shots, the ball becomes engulfed in flames and you cannot miss a shot unless the other team scores and you lose your momentum. This game has a lot of secret characters like Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton in a basketball game. How awesome is that? Along with the commentary in this game, that makes this game a must-have. I don't see anybody in this world who's never played that game before because it was everywhere. It was in the arcades. You had the original NBA Jam, then you had the NBA Jam TE Tournament Edition. They had a version on PlayStation. They even had a newer one for the PlayStation 3. If you have never played this game before, play it. Go on there and emulate it and have some fun. When it comes to the world of video gaming, there are a lot of games, consoles, and handhelds out there that people don't even know about that are really good, but they just fall under the radar because they don't have the name Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo slapped on them. And I look at this system and I think to myself, why don't more people have this? It's a tablet called the JXD 7800B. This is a gaming tablet with controls put on the tablet. It's specifically made for emulation. You could play games from Nintendo all the way to Dreamcast. Why don't a lot of people have this? It's made in China, and I know what everybody's thinking because there's been a lot of cheap things made over there in China. As far as gaming goes, there's a lot of cheap products that are not sturdy, that break easily, and I can understand that. But this tablet is very sturdy. And from everything that I saw on it, the gaming is amazing because I look at some of the videos on YouTube of people who actually do have that handheld and they actually live here in America. You can play a lot of games on it. It's a great alternative to emulation so that you don't have to track down a Game Boy. You don't have to track down a Game Gear. You don't have to use your laptop to play these games. You could just sit there and play it. And it's a great alternative to those people who buy the Bluetooth controllers for their phones. Not only does this tablet have the actual physical buttons on it, you can also play all the Android games from the Android market because it is an Android tablet. So you can go on to Google Play and download all the games that you have on your phone and it will play just fine on this tablet. I check it out. Anime fans rejoice because Adult Swim is partnering with Productions IG to finally bring out seasons 2 and 3 of Fooly Cooly. You know, the most confusing anime ever created on the face of this planet. That was only 6 episodes long and you don't know what happened to everybody after that. I would love to see more on what happened to these characters. I'm very interested to see what these guys can come up with. Also, on a side note, if you have Netflix, which I know a lot of you do, there is a new Voltron series coming out. I've always been a fan of Voltron ever since I was a little kid. I think back to my aunt, God rest her soul, because she used to tape all of that stuff for us. Voltron and Transor Z, He-Man, Thundercats, Mask, Power Rangers, all that good stuff that we know about. My aunt taped all of those and I would sit there and watch it over and over and over again. And it's just nice to hear that somebody revived a great series like the Voltron Force. It's going to be a new cast, new animation, and I will get Netflix specifically to watch that. And for the people who don't have Netflix, you guys are missing out on a lot because they have a lot of anime shows that I know that a lot of you probably forgot about that would love to see again. They have the whole series, Rurouni Kenshin, on there. You know, where can you find that at? I mean, it's hard to find those DVDs. You guys need to check it out. June 10th, 2016, a new Voltron Force. The anime of the week is an anime called Genro the Wolf Brigade. It came out November 17th, 1999 and is set in Japan, the 1950s, in an alternate universe where Germany takes over Japan. It follows a man named Kazuki Fuse, who is the member of an elite task force, who is put on trial for treason. He ends up meeting a young girl named Kei, who claims to be the sister of the suicide bomber that Fuse failed to stop, which is why he was put on trial in the first place. His job was to stop the suicide bomber from killing innocent people, and he failed. So he's trusted with the task of protecting this girl who turns out to be working for public security, the enemy. She was sent there to trap Fuse so that he can meet his demise. I'm not going to give away too much about this movie, but this really is great storytelling in Japanese anime at its best. The animation is top notch and you guys will enjoy it. Trust me when I tell you. And that's it for episode 20 of my podcast show. You can check out my last video when I did a review on Macho Man Randy Savage's shoot interview from 2003. He talks about everything that a wrestling fan wants to know. You can also check out my top 10 videos where I did the top 10 least favorite Mega Man Robot Masters and least favorite Robot Master powers from the classic series. You can also catch up on the last 19 episodes of the show. Check out my Facebook page by the same name, KC the Most. I also have Twitter at MostKC. So there's many ways for you to tell me how good my stuff is or how bad my